The mansion rose above Biscayne Bay like a fortress, its glass walls catching the light of Miami's setting sun. From a distance it looked like a dream, modern, immaculate, and untouchable. Inside, however, silence pressed against the marble halls, a silence that swallowed laughter and magnified whispers. Khalid Al-Mansoor stood on the balcony, the ocean wind brushing against his face. His tailored shirt clung to him, damp from the humid air. From this vantage point, he could almost believe he was free from palace expectations, free from the eyes of uncles who measured his worth only by obedience. Miami promised anonymity, but solitude arrived with it. Behind him, Elena's heels clicked against the marble floor. She appeared in a silk robe, her hair spilling over her shoulders like dark waves. She leaned on the balcony rail, her perfume sharp in the air. "It feels unreal," she said softly, gazing at the glittering skyline. "Unreal?" His accent wrapped the word in weight. "That someone like me stands here, beside you. You could have anyone." He turned, his eyes narrowing slightly. "And yet I chose you." Her smile flickered, then steadied, practiced and delicate. She let her fingers trail along his arm. The warmth of his skin sent a shiver through her, not entirely from affection. Behind her, calm memories clawed. The cheap apartment she left in Bucharest, the promises whispered by men who disappeared once she surrendered everything. Khalid had offered her more jewels, freedom, a life cut from magazines. But his devotion felt heavy, like chains disguised as gold. The evening deepened. Servants padded silently in the background, placing silver trays on glass tables. Khalid hardly noticed them. His gaze remained fixed on Elena, searching, always searching. "You're quiet tonight," he said finally. She lifted her glass of champagne, stalling with a sip. "Just tired. The city never sleeps." "You mean you never sleep?" His words carried an edge. "I hear you moving at night. Walking the halls." Her throat tightened. "It's a new place. I'm adjusting." He studied her, unreadable. Power was etched into his posture, the weight of a man used to control. Yet shadows marked him. Exile, secrets, desires that could not be shown in Dubai's gilded palaces. When she slipped away to the bedroom, Khalid remained on the balcony. The city lights shimmered like stars scattered on water, beautiful yet unreachable. He lit a cigarette, though he despised the taste, and let the smoke curl into the night. Inside, Elena closed the door behind her and pressed her palms against the cool surface. Her reflection in the mirror looked like a stranger, a woman draped in silk but hollow beneath. She whispered to herself, almost inaudibly, "This isn't forever." The words hung in the air like a vow. From the balcony, Khalid exhaled smoke, his gaze fixed on the waves below. Beneath his calm exterior, suspicion stirred. Trust had never come easily, and here in Miami, surrounded by wealth yet stripped of his title's shield, he felt more exposed than ever. The night wrapped the mansion in silence once more, but under its surface, both of them carried secrets waiting to fracture the illusion. And when cracks began, they would not stay hidden. Morning light spilled across the vast bedroom, but Elena kept her eyes shut, savoring the brief illusion of safety. For a few stolen moments, she pretended she was not watched, not owned, not bound to a man whose presence filled every corner of her life. Khalid had already left for a discreet meeting with lawyers in the city. The air felt lighter without him, though his shadow lingered in the quiet. Elena slipped out of bed, her robe sliding over her skin, and moved toward the mirror. She traced the curve of her lips with a fingertip. A smile, soft, alluring, practiced, settled on her face. The smile that once saved her, the smile that now imprisoned her. Years ago, in Bucharest, she had learned its power. Men in dark cars had promised photo shoots, glossy magazine covers, a life where poverty couldn't touch her. She believed them. At 17, she posed in dim studios for photographers who never paid. At 19, she followed a man across borders only to be abandoned with forged papers. The smile helped her survive, seduce, convince. It became her mask, her armor, her only weapon. In Miami, Khalid adored that smile. He mistook it for devotion. Each time she curled her lips in that delicate way, he saw loyalty, passion, even gratitude. He never asked what lay behind it. Elena descended the staircase into the sunlit dining hall, where a servant laid out breakfast, fresh figs, saffron bread, and coffee rich as earth. She ignored the spread, walking past to the terrace, her bare feet brushing against cool stone. She needed the open air, the reminder that the world existed beyond these walls. Her phone buzzed. She froze. Khalid forbade calls from unknown numbers, his paranoia sharp as a blade. Yet the name flashing on the screen made her heart race. Marcus, she answered in a whisper. Not now. His voice, low and insistent, came through the line. You said you wanted out. I can help you, but you have to trust me. Her hand trembled. She glanced around, every nerve alert. The cameras, the staff, the possibility Khalid had returned early. Danger pressed in on all sides. Elena, Marcus said, firmer this time. He's not your savior. He's your cage. Think about it. She ended the call abruptly, clutching the phone to her chest. Her heart pounded. Marcus was temptation, escape, and risk all woven into one. But even as fear gripped her, she felt the faint curl of her lips, forming the same smile she wore for Khalid. A smile born not of affection, but of secrets. That evening Khalid returned, his expression unreadable as always. He studied her across the long dining table, candlelight flickering in his eyes. You look different, he said slowly. What are you hiding? Her smile held steady, practiced to perfection. Nothing you wouldn't already know. His gaze lingered on her, sharp and questioning. But he said nothing more, sipping his wine with deliberate calm. Above the mansion, night spread its velvet cloak again. And somewhere beyond the city lights Marcus waited, ready to pull her deeper into a game of betrayal she could no longer avoid. Rain streaked the wide glass panes of the Miami mansion, blurring the city skyline into shadows. Khalid sat alone in his study, the dim light of a single lamp illuminating stacks of documents, bank transfers, coded emails, legal contracts he never fully trusted. His fingers drummed against the mahogany desk. Every detail of his empire was calculated, yet when it came to Elena, certainty slipped through his grip like sand. He had noticed changes, late-night walks in the garden, texts she deleted too quickly, the way his smile seemed to belong to someone else. Trust was fragile, and in Khalid's world betrayal was death. In the lounge, Elena scrolled her phone with trembling hands. Marcus's messages blinked on the screen. He doesn't own you. You deserve more. Tomorrow, meet me. Each word struck her like a lifeline and a threat. She wanted freedom. Yet the idea of deceiving Khalid sent dread crawling beneath her skin. She startled when Khalid's voice echoed from the doorway. Who are you speaking to? She pressed the screen against her thigh. No one. Just a friend from home. He stepped closer, his cologne saturating the air. His gaze burned through her, searching for fractures. For a long silence he said nothing, and the storm outside filled the gap. Finally he leaned down, brushing his lips against her temple. I hope you remember loyalty is everything. When he left, she let out a shaky breath, her chest tight. Marcus's face flickered in her memory, sharp eyes, the kind of confidence that made promises feel like truth. He had first approached her at a cafe weeks earlier, introducing himself as a businessman. He knew too much about Khalid's wealth, too much about her isolation. Yet instead of fear, she felt drawn to him. Their second meeting had been more dangerous. In a quiet corner of a hotel lobby, he whispered, He's paranoid. Men like him never let go. But I can make you disappear. She had smiled, though her pulse raced. Disappear where? Somewhere he can't reach you. His eyes had hardened then. But freedom isn't free. You'll need to help me. Now his words circled her mind like a vulture. Help him. What did that mean? The following afternoon, Elena slipped out under the guise of shopping. Miami's streets throbbed with music and traffic, masking her fear. She entered a dim cafe where Marcus waited, his jacket draped over the chair, his phone face down. You came, he said, his voice carrying relief and control. I shouldn't be here. But you are. He leaned closer, lowering his tone. Listen to me. Khalid is hiding things. Money. Documents. He's vulnerable, more than you think. If you want out, You can help me get what I need." She shook her head, her hands tightening around her cup. "You're asking me to betray him?" Marcus smirked. "Hasn't he already betrayed you? Do you really think he'll marry you? Save you? No, Elena, you're a toy in his exile. And toys break." Her stomach churned. His words carved into her doubts, feeding the hunger for freedom. She rose abruptly, leaving her untouched coffee behind. Outside, rain fell harder, soaking her silk blouse as she hurried back toward the mansion. Each drop felt like a question: betray Khalid and escape, or stay and suffocate. When she returned, Khalid stood waiting by the door, his eyes narrowing at her drenched figure. "You were gone long." Her smile flickered, fragile under his gaze. "Just the shops. The rain caught me." He said nothing, but his silence was louder than accusation. That night, as thunder rolled above, whispers of betrayal grew louder inside those walls, unseen but inevitable. The storm reached its peak that night, waves hammering against the seawall as lightning tore across the Miami sky. The mansion stood like a dark jewel against the chaos, its glass windows glowing faintly under the flashes. Inside, Elena sat at the vanity, brushing her hair with slow, mechanical strokes. The silence pressed on her until every creak of the house felt amplified. Somewhere down the hall, Khalid's footsteps echoed, deliberate and heavy. She paused, waiting for the sound to pass, her hand trembling around the brush. Khalid entered the bedroom, his shirt unbuttoned, his eyes shadowed. He poured 2 glasses of wine from the decanter, his movements stiff. Without speaking, he handed her one. "To us," he said flatly. She lifted the glass, forcing a smile. "To us." They drank in silence. Outside, thunder rattled the glass. Khalid's gaze never left her. He set his glass down, leaning closer. "I saw you today." Her throat tightened. "Saw me?" "At the cafe. With him." His jaw flexed. "Do you think I wouldn't know?" The brush slipped from her hand. "Khalid!" He slammed his palm against the vanity, the mirror rattling. "Do not lie to me." Her breath caught. His voice was not raised, but his fury coiled beneath every syllable. She rose from the chair, stepping back. "He's just a friend who wants what is mine." His voice broke into a snarl. "You think you can betray me in my own house?" The storm roared outside, mirroring the tempest inside. Elena's hands trembled as she tried to steady herself. "You don't understand. I never—" His hand caught her wrist, tight enough to bruise. "Do you know what betrayal costs in my world?" Tears blurred her vision. She shook her head, her free hand pressing against his chest, desperate. "Please, Khalid, I don't—" The next moments fractured into chaos. The sound of shattering glass, her wine glass slipping to the floor, his grip tightening, a struggle that seemed to last forever, but spanned only seconds, a sharp gasp. Then silence, sudden and absolute. When Elena stumbled back, Khalid lay on the floor, blood blooming through his shirt, spreading fast across the marble. His eyes were wide, fixed on her, his lips moving without sound. Then the light in them faded. Her breath tore out in ragged sobs. The knife, slick and red, clattered from her shaking hand. She hadn't realized she had grabbed it. She hadn't realized until it was already done. Lightning lit the room, illuminating the crimson stain beneath him. The storm outside seemed to pause, holding its breath along with her. She staggered to the phone, her fingers slipping on the screen. The number blurred through her tears. 911. Her voice cracked when the operator answered. "Please, please, someone. He's bleeding, he's not moving." The sirens came minutes later, flashing red against the rain-soaked driveway. Neighbors peered from behind curtains, whispers already forming. Miami police officers flooded into the mansion, their boots leaving muddy trails on the marble floors. Detective Sarah Mitchell pushed past the uniforms, her eyes sharp, her presence cutting through the chaos. She paused at the threshold of the bedroom, taking in the scene. The prince sprawled in blood, Elena crouched beside him, trembling, her silk robe stained scarlet. "What happened here?" Sarah asked, her voice steady. Elena looked up, her face pale, her lips quivering. "An intruder. Someone broke in." I tried to stop him, but the room told a different story. The shattered glass, the lack of forced entry, the single knife smeared with blood. Sarah's eyes narrowed, lingering on Elena's trembling hands. Something didn't fit. Outside, the storm finally began to fade, but inside the mansion, the real storm had only just begun. Detective Sarah Mitchell walked slowly through the mansion, her gloves snapping into place as the crime scene team swarmed behind her. The house smelled faintly of smoke from the storm-dampened fireplace, but stronger was the iron tang of blood that clung to the air. She had worked dozens of homicide cases, yet there was something different here, the weight of wealth, of secrets bought and buried. Khalid Al-Mansoor's body had already been photographed and covered. Still, Sarah crouched near the dark pool staining the marble floor, her sharp eyes tracing the knife resting nearby. One wound, no signs of struggle, except the shattered glass on the vanity. She glanced at Elena, seated on a sofa, wrapped in a blanket. Her face was pale, her hands clasped tight, trembling. A uniformed officer murmured, "She insists an intruder came through the balcony." Sarah's eyes flicked to the balcony doors. Not a single scratch on the lock. The storm had rattled the frame, but left no sign of forced entry. She made a note, then approached Elena. "Elena," Sarah said gently, kneeling to her level. "I need you to walk me through what happened. Every detail." Elena's voice wavered. "We were talking. He heard something. He told me to wait. And then there was a man, tall, wearing black." I screamed. He had a knife. Khalid tried to fight him. And then, her lips trembled, eyes glistening. He fell. I tried to stop the bleeding, but it was too late. Sarah studied her face. The performance was convincing, but not flawless. The faint pause before "man," the flicker in her eyes as if rehearsing. Sarah had seen it before, fear mixed with fabrication. Later, in the study, Sarah sifted through Khalid's desk drawers. Beneath contracts and financial ledgers, she uncovered documents that seemed out of place. Passports under different names, offshore bank transfers to accounts in Switzerland and Panama, encrypted USB drives. Khalid had not been just a foreign prince living quietly, he was hiding something larger. She called in her tech specialist. "Run everything. I want to know who he really was and why he needed this house." Hours later, while the mansion grew quiet, Sarah sat in her unmarked car reviewing preliminary reports. Khalid's wealth was scattered across shadow accounts, some connected to shell companies flagged for fraud investigations. And there, Elena's name, linked to smaller transfers, not millions, but enough to matter. She leaned back, exhaling. "So you're not just the grieving mistress." The next morning, Sarah returned for a second interview. Elena looked even paler, her eyes red from sleeplessness. Sarah placed a photo on the table, a grainy still from a cafe camera, Elena sitting with Marcus across from her. "Elena," Sarah said, her tone quiet but edged. "You didn't tell me about him. Who is he?" Elena froze, her lips parting without sound. Sarah leaned closer. "You see, I think you're caught between two men, one who owned you, one who used you, and in the middle of it, a prince ends up dead." Elena's hands tightened around the blanket. Tears slipped down her cheeks. "You don't understand. I didn't want this." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "Then help me understand. Because the evidence says you're lying." Outside, the sun rose over Miami, casting light across the mansion. But inside, Sarah knew she was only stepping into deeper shadows, secrets that would drag them all further into betrayal and blood. Elena sat in the interrogation room, the hum of the overhead light drilling into her skull, her fingers twisted together, pale and raw. Across the table, Detective Sarah Mitchell placed a folder down, opening it with deliberate calm. Photographs spilled across the surface, images of Marcus, images of her in cafes, hotel lobbies, blurred shots of secret meetings. Sarah's voice was low, almost tender. "You weren't just his mistress, Elena. You were working with someone. Tell me about Marcus." Elena's lips trembled. "I didn't have a choice." Sarah leaned back, waiting. Her chest rose and fell as she pulled words from the weight pressing on her. "I met him months before Khalid brought me here. He said he could help me escape. I believed him. But Marcus, he wasn't what I thought. He works with men who hunt women like me. They take girls, promise them freedom, and then use them to reach men with money. Khalid wasn't my first, just the richest. Her voice cracked, and she buried her face in her hands. If I didn't follow, they threatened to send me back. Or worse. Sarah listened, her expression unreadable, though her pen scratched against the notepad. So the night Khalid died, was it you or was it Marcus? Elena's eyes lifted, wet and desperate. I swear to you, I never meant to hurt him. Marcus wanted documents, bank codes, account numbers. He told me to get close, to gain trust. That night, Khalid found out. He confronted me. I panicked. He confronted me. I panicked. He grabbed me. I grabbed the knife. Her words dissolved into sobs. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. Sarah slid a photograph forward. Marcus at the airport, grainy security footage. He's gone now. Disappeared hours after Khalid's death. Do you know where? Elena shook her head violently. No. He never tells me anything. He just uses me, and then he's gone. Silence filled the room. Sarah studied her closely, weighing truth against manipulation. Elena's story had holes, yet the tremor in her voice carried a rawness that was difficult to fake. Outside the interrogation room, Sarah later met with her team. She's either the coldest liar I've ever seen, or she's just another victim in Marcus's chain. Either way, Khalid's death isn't as simple as a jealous mistress snapping. Her tech officer slid over new intel. We cracked one of Khalid's drives. Offshore transfers to shell accounts in Marcus's name. Looks like the prince wasn't just hiding his fortune. He was moving money for them, maybe even laundering it. Sarah frowned. The picture was changing. Khalid not only victim, but accomplice. Elena not only manipulator, but pawn. Back in the room, Elena whispered more, almost to herself. He said Khalid was never innocent. He said the prince played the same game, only with bigger stakes. That's why they wanted him gone. Sarah froze at the words. They wanted him gone. This wasn't just about a love triangle. It was a network, a syndicate, a web spun so wide it swallowed anyone who entered. The detective closed her folder with a snap. Elena, whether you're complicit or trapped, the truth is this. Marcus isn't finished, and you're the only thread I have to follow. Elena lifted her face, hollow-eyed. Then he'll kill me too. Sarah's gaze hardened. Not if I find him first. Outside, the Miami night was alive with neon and secrets, the city glittering while predators moved in its shadows. The case was no longer about one dead prince. It was about untangling a deception that stretched far beyond his bloodied mansion. The trial gripped Miami. Elena painted as both predator and pawn. Sarah testified, exposing lies in Elena's story while uncovering Khalid's offshore accounts and Marcus's shadowy syndicate. Elena wept on the stand. I chose survival. The jury found her guilty of manslaughter, not murder, 10 years in prison. Cameras called it justice, but Sarah knew the truth remained buried. Weeks later, an envelope arrived. Marcus in Europe smiling, with the words, "Not finished yet." Elena faded behind prison walls. Khalid's empire crumbled, and Sarah understood love scams never end with truth, only with ruins.